Hi, girls. Hello. Hi, Casey. I can't see your face. I want to see your face. Callie. Hi, honey. Sunshine. Hi. Now, do you guys want to there should be down in the bottom left corner, just a little button that says mute or not mute. So do you want to just unmute it? And I will just get you girls just to introduce yourselves just quickly, say what your name is, where you're calling from, what time it is, and what your business is. Can we do that one at a time? Casey,
Sure.
do you want to start?
Hi, I'm in Austin. It's 4:30 in the morning.
Oh my gosh!
Wow.
Oh, honey, I am so in love with you right now that you would get up for us at that hour in the
So
morning. I am so
I may turn the lights back off. We'll see.
Oh, do you know what? Turn them off. That is fine. And I'll get you all to mute in a minute, but I just wanted to have a quick chat with each of you first. And then Callie, do you want to unmute yourself, honey?
Yes, hello.
Callie and I went to school together, everybody.
Am I only supposed to see you, Claire, or can I see everybody?
Can you see everybody? You should
No.
see everybody.
No.
Sunshine, can you
Our
see everybody?
participants.
You can? There might be a little setting. There's a little setting up on the top right, Callie, where it says like gallery view. Can you see that in the top right corner?
Oh, hooray! I have
Someone
sound now,
someone
sorry.
else is on.
It took me forever to get the sound on.
Perfect. So, Kelly, are you on your phone or on the computer?
I'm on my phone because I thought it was only a phone app, but I can do it on my computer for next week. So
Okay, no, that's fine. Well, you probably won't be able to see everybody on your phone. It's better on the computer because then you can see everybody, but the phone still works well too. It's still great.
Okay, cool.
So, tell us about you.
Okay, I'm married and I have two girls, two young kids, 10 and 13. Well, that's still considered young. I won't be able to say that for much longer. And I'm also an actress.
Yes.
And I'm an absolute dag. At night in my if I could drop the kids to and from school in this, I would.
Perfect.
In fact, I have a few times and it's totally embarrassing. So I need this. I should probably be waking up at 4:30 in the morning to do this.
Oh, my goodness. How's that commitment? Thank you, honey. Would you want to just pop yourself on mute?
Yes.
Just
done.
so my sound isn't like, Sunshine! Hello, precious!
Hello.
Hello, darling. Now,
Hi,
where are you calling from?
I'm in Melbourne and it's 7:32, so
Oh.
bright and early.
Yeah. And so tell us about your business in the making.
So I am a self-leadership coach for women. So I just sort of help women elevate their personal power.
Yeah. And this woman is just gorgeous. Alrighty. Now, Paige.
Yay!
Now, Paige
Yay!
is just launching a business too, which is incredible. Do you want to just tell us quickly about that, honey?
Yeah, so I'm a fully qualified personal trainer and wellness coach. So I'm currently predominantly supporting people who have substance abuse issues or have been in prison. So utilizing fitness as a part of their recovery journey. So that's the biggest thing for me. So yeah,
you are at the start of a very exciting journey, aren't you, honey?
Yeah, definitely. Very much so.
Thank you, sweetie. Do you want to just pop yourself on mute?
Muting, yeah.
And Heather!
Hi. I'm in Plymouth, Massachusetts, so it's 5:30 a.m. here.
Darling, you're amazing. Thank you so much. And I am so sorry. Like, I tried so hard to get these calls to work for everybody, but with everybody spread literally all over the world, like, I just couldn't do it. And then I've got my London girls that can't even get onto either of the calls. So I'm sorry, but thank you. Thank you so much. So I am going to just share my screen with you girls now. And we will get started. Now, can you girls see that screen? Just do thumbs up.
Yes.
Yes? All right. So if I can get all of you to put your speakers on mute for me now. I'm just going to get the chat box up. All righty. Sorry, girls, just getting myself all organized here. Okay. So this is the first week of Brand Yourself Beautiful, and I'm so excited that you girls can be here live. And for those who are listening to the recording, thank you too. And I'm sorry that I couldn't make these live calls work for everybody, but I am so stinking proud of you girls for giving this incredible gift to yourself. Now, this session is probably going to be one of the longer ones in the program. We've got lots to cover. So we will get started soon. But before we do, I just want to go ahead. So we've introduced everybody quickly. And now I am going to kick off in a couple of minutes' time. But before we get started, I just want to make sure that you get the most out of today's session. So there are 4 things you need to do before we get started. I need you to have your printed workbooks out. Do we all have that? Do you want to just give me a thumbs up? Perfect. Now, the reason I want you to print these books out is because I'm really pushing you in your creativity with this program. Now, if you're thinking to yourself, but I'm not a creative person, then I need you to know that that's actually not the truth, because we are all creative. We're created to be creative, okay? And the best way for you to really explore that is to get off your screens. And I know we can't do that right now, but I basically want you girls to be able to use your hands as much as possible, which is why I want you to print out your workbooks each week. And I get that it's a pain in the bum, but it'll be worth it, all right? Now, I want you to have a couple of pretty things to write with. Have you got like pretty gel pens or something lovely? Steal something from your kid. You know, you've got them? All right, and then I want you to turn off anything that beeps, buzzes, flashes, or vibrates. All right, so just turn it all off. Give yourself this uninterrupted time. 4:30 and 5:30 girls probably won't have an issue with that, hopefully. All right, now I want this program to be really interactive. So partly because it's more fun, but also because I just want to know where you're at. And then if I can know where you're at, then I can just tweak the content to make sure that I'm giving you exactly what you need. So if I ask you a question, I want you to find the chat box and type in your answer. Is that okay? So can you just type in yes, if that's cool, into the chat box? I just want you to find it so you know where it is. So it should be down the bottom. Is it on the right? I think. Yes, yes, yes. Fabulous. All right. Okay. Now, I just want to ask you this. If you could bring one emotion into our time together today, what would that emotion be? If there was just one thing that you'd want yourself to feel, that then you'd know your results today would be amazing, what would that be? Would it be more curious or more passionate or more playful or more energetic? What do you want to bring today? Just tell me in the chat box. Write your one word. Hello, Maria. Hi, beautiful. Darling, can I get you just to quickly introduce yourself? All the other girls have introduced themselves. So do you want to just quickly introduce yourself? Tell us where you're calling from, what you do.
Yeah, sure. Hi, everybody. I'm Maria Taylor, and I'm living in Sydney, Australia. And I work full-time as a psychologist. I consult privately, and I also work in a private school.
Yeah.
And yeah, I'm just a bit of a busy mum as well. So yeah.
Oh, I'm so excited for you to be here, honey. Now, can I get you just to mute your little microphone? It's just down the bottom in the left corner. So that's just to make sure that my sound's completely clear. And then I'll unmute you, or I'll unmute all of you when we need it. All righty? Okay, so what's the one emotion that you want to get from today? So what have we got? We've got confidence. Casey says we found it. Creative, inspired, clarity. Oh, beautiful girls. Alrighty, so let's just touch base about how you ladies went with week 0. So can you pop yes in the chat box if you've created your little selfie album in your phone, or just give me a thumbs up. That's even easier. You done your selfies? Woohoo! Okay, now how did you go with taking those selfies and then writing the little notes each day? Was there anything that you found kind of eye-opening about that? Like, what was that like for you? Just give me a little sentence in the chat box about what that was like, or what you learned from it, or what you noticed. if there was anything kind of eye-opening, confronting, yeah. It is kind of confronting, isn't it? I totally agree. Because it's like you're paying attention to something that you've never really paid attention to, right? Now, just to let you know, the purpose of those reflection questions is to give you a really solid snapshot of where things are at for you right now when it comes to your style. So it highlights all the good, the bad, and the ugly. Hopefully not in a way that makes you feel yucky. That's not the purpose of it. It's just to give you an awareness around the areas that you're really happy with, and then also the areas that you want to work on. Okay, so it's just a really good start for us for the program. So let's move on to week 1. Now, towards the end of last year, I was at a conference in Chicago, and this gorgeous little thing came up and introduced herself to me. And she started kind of gushing about how amazing she thought waking up in Paris was, and how much she loved my articles and how I'd helped her. And then I was like gushing back about how adorable she was. And, you know, I was looking at her dress and saying how cute and blah, blah, blah. But then things just got really deep really quickly. And she started sharing a bit of her story with me. So she said that she was called Fatty for the first time by some mean girl who wanted her off the school swings. So she was, like, in her words, a tiny 8-year-old at the time, and it struck her hard. And that was the first big moment she's been able to pinpoint as being the start of her lifelong struggle with her body and her weight. So she told me about how a year later she was asked to model in a local fashion show, but was mortified when she realised that it was for the pretty plus clothes. But then when her mum came to see her in the show, she saw that her mum was even more mortified, not at the shop for insinuating that her daughter was a plus size, but at her. So she told me how she just cried through this whole horrible lecture that her mum gave her after the parade had finished. And then once she was at home, her mum took her favourite dress from her as motivation to get skinny. She called the family doctor for an emergency appointment later that day, and then was on her first diet by dinner time. By the age of 11, she was drowning in her first eating disorder, and she was saying how it's just taken every ounce of her power and strength to just fight eating disorders on and off ever since. She's had a little girl now, and she just it was just so real with me about the genuine struggle that continues to be for her, you know, about raising this little girl and not wanting the same for her, you know, just that feeling of, you know, just being worthless and unlovable and ugly in the way that she did. Beauty equals love. And that's the collective belief of our culture today. And that's where we've gone so wrong, where we've allowed beauty to be defined for us, and where we've tried to alter ourselves to become something that is ridiculously unrealistic. We've been taught to desire this picture perfect, skinny pretty ideal that's been created by corporations making billions off our self-dissatisfaction. They've manipulated us into thinking that we need to spend more money, and we need to, you know, give more resources and more time, and we have to put more effort into fixing everything we're told needs to be fixed. So basically they're wanting us to look like this, right? But the problem is that the definition of beauty excludes more than 99% of us, no matter how hard we try to fix ourselves. So this is the Victoria's Secret Love My Body campaign. And these are the types of images we've been bombarded with our whole lives. These are the images that have taught us that if we don't look like this, then we're not worthy of being loved. And that if we don't look like this, then we're not beautiful, or we're not worthy of feeling beautiful. And you know what I think about that. So it's a shallow, narrow and damaging definition of what beauty should look like, but it's so terribly powerful that it's robbed many of us of our self-worth, our health, our happiness, our purpose, our passion, our success, and our ability to express our real beauty. For some of us, it's just a little bit. It's not as big of a struggle, but for others, it's just huge, like this, you know, beautiful young girl that I met in Chicago. We should never, ever, ever trust a company or a corporation to define what beauty means to us. Now, I'm not saying that these, you know, beautiful angels are gorgeous. They're stunning. But these women down the bottom are stunning too, you know, and many women that aren't displayed on this screen are stunning too. We are all beautiful. Now, this is an image of Dove's Real Beauty campaign, and I think we need to see more images like this. But you know what? Even Dove doesn't begin to touch on the incredible beauty and diversity of women, and we still have so far to go. But this is a start. And the thing is, if we can't redefine beauty, then we cannot define our unique personal style. The majority of women don't even know what beauty is anymore, and they haven't had the opportunity to stop and consider whether our culture's definition of beauty is even true or not. And our brain is widely confused over it. On one hand, we've accepted that the images we've been bombarded with are an honest reflection of how miserably we're failing in this area. But on the other hand, there is something inside of us that just knows we need something more. We just know we need beauty, the kind of beauty that inspires us and encourages us and excites us and uplifts us. Something that fascinates us, enchants us, right? I believe passionately that this is a time where all women have a responsibility to redefine beauty outside what we've been taught to believe, to redefine beauty in a way that feels true and authentic, not only to our eyes, but to our hearts. Now, this is, out of everything, the one thing that I want you to remember about today. It's a quote by plus-size model Katie H. Wilcox, and it says, "Beauty is always positive. If you come across something or someone who embodies and causes negativity, yet whom the world perceives as beautiful, take note. This is a false representation of beauty. Authentic beauty cannot cultivate and embody the negative. We must choose for ourselves what kind of beauty we would like to represent and embody, the kind that causes self-harm and negativity and leaves us feeling unfulfilled, or the kind that fills our soul and inspires goodness, kindness, hope, love, and all things positive." I think we have so many negative thoughts and emotions around the idea of beauty. But you have to understand that beauty isn't the enemy. So you've got to take back control. I want you to wipe the slate clean, and we're going to figure out what is uniquely beautiful to you. Now, I will get you girls to open up your workbooks so that we can get started on the first step of finding your unique personal style. So I will get you, we're going to start focusing on the question, what do I find beautiful? And I want you to start thinking of all the things in your life that you find deeply and dazzlingly beautiful. Think about what it's like being in the presence of beauty. You know, those moments when your heart is quiet and open and free and your soul just expands and you feel all inspired and joy-filled? Okay, just think about the fairy tale. Another quote that I love by Elizabeth Gilbert from her book, Big Magic. It says, "The universe buries strange jewels deep within us all and then stands back to see if we can find them. The hunt to uncover those jewels, that's creative living. The courage to go on that hunt in the first place, that's what separates the mundane existence from a more enchanted one. The often surprising results of that hunt, that's what I call big magic." So that is exactly what we're going to do now. We're going to hunt for treasure. We're going to hunt for beauty, and we're going to create big magic. We're writing words that express what you truly love, what is deeply beautiful to you, and the stuff that makes you swoon. Now you are going to create your very own "What Do I Find Beautiful" mind map, which will help you think really deeply about what is genuinely and authentically beautiful to you. So basically, this will kickstart your thinking around the visual things you love, like fashion, design, art, books, travel, nature, music, and movies. Now, mind mapping is an incredible way to brainstorm your thoughts and ideas organically, and it unlocks creativity like nothing else. But for those who haven't done mind mapping before, I'll just run you through the basics. All right, so first we start with in the middle of a sideways turned page, which is basically what I've created for you on the worksheet. And then you're going to get colored pens and pencils because it's more fun that way. It's a bit more inspiring. And it's really good to use an image in the middle, which is why I've created the heart with the question, what do I find beautiful? Now that is your central idea. Okay, then I've created a handful of secondary ideas, which you'll see around the love heart. Now, I want to give you an opportunity to just relook at those secondary ideas, but we'll do that in a moment, okay? So after that, then you can start drawing the little curved branches from your secondary ideas to your next, and then to your next, and so on. So the curved branches are just so your brainstorming process stays fluid and continuous, that there's no abrupt stops and starts. Basically, we want it to just keep going and going from one idea to the next, okay? And then the last little rule is that you're only allowed to write one word per branch, okay? So no sentences, no phrases, unless you absolutely have to get 2 words in, that's okay, but just try to avoid it. Just try to keep it one word and then expand that idea to the next word and to the next word. All right. Now, I've chosen, I think it's 8 secondary ideas, which are on your mind map. But if any of these secondary ideas don't resonate with you, if you don't feel a connection to any of these, then I want you just to cross them out and add something that you do feel a connection to. So everybody's different. So you might want to scrap art if you're not really the artsy type, or travel if you're not much of a traveler and you prefer staying at home. But I want you to replace those words with another word. So you might prefer to brainstorm around the beautiful aspects of things like architecture, or interior design, or graphic design, or dance, or theatre, or history, or food, or science, or a culture, or a country you love. It's totally up to you. So basically, I want you to choose 8 ideas that you are visually drawn to, inspired by the most. And they're the ones that I want you to focus on for this mind map. So can I just, actually, I'll go back here. I want you just to spend maybe a minute now just figuring out what those 8 ideas are that you want to focus on for today. So I'll just give you a minute or so just to figure that out. And do you guys want to just give me a thumbs up when you figured out your eight secondary ideas? Cool, Kelly, Heather, Paige. All right, perfect. Well, let's go on. So don't be intimidated by all the words, all right? But basically, this is what I want from you. I want lots and lots and lots of words, okay? Now, I wanted to show you what my mind map looks like for this exercise, just so you can see how some of the things in this mind map relate to my personal style and brand, which I know most of you are familiar with. Now, Paris has been a huge inspiration to me, which you'll see in my travel section in my mind map towards the bottom, but it's kind of dotted around all of it actually. So when I was in fashion school in Sydney, I won a scholarship at 19 to go to the Paris American Academy to study haute couture. And I fell absolutely head over heels in love with it, with the colors and the shapes and the curves and the history and the art and just the decadence of it all. So Paris will always play a huge part of my definition of beauty. And you'll see an expression of that in the way that I dress. You'll see a bit of that over top haute couture influence, even though I have toned that down a little bit. And you'll see touches of that in my brand and my brand name, obviously, because who doesn't want to wake up in Paris, right? Now, the other area of my life that has had a huge impact on my definition of beauty is that I grew up dancing, which I lived and breathed for many, many, many years. I actually danced professionally for a time until I fractured my lower back, which kind of destroyed my career. But dance and ballet and theatre will always be an extremely strong influence in my life, which again, you'll see in the colour palette of my brand, like the ballet slipper pink, which will always be my favourite colour. But also in the way that I dress, with different shades of pinks and pastel colours and lots of whites and creams and sheer fabrics and lace and then more feminine shapes. All of that flows from my dance background. And then another really big influence for me is Japan. On my honeymoon, I remember running into a bookstore at the airport and just randomly buying the book Memoirs of a Geisha. And I was completely captivated by it, by its beauty and its darkness and its incredible, like, just rich descriptions. It just made me more and more fascinated by Japanese culture. And Michael and I took the kids for a holiday there last year, and it was just incredible. And I got to ride in a swan boat on these gorgeous rivers under like thousands of exploding blossom trees. And it was just stunning. And again, you'll see that influence in the way that I dress, which also comes into my brand. So anybody that knows me knows I love kimonos, and I have at least a dozen of them. I love Japanese colors and their prints. Yeah, so these are just a few examples of me digging into what is beautiful to me and then translating those things in my personal style, which will be the process that we'll go through in Brand Yourself Beautiful. Now, what is beautiful to you will be completely different to this, because your experience of the world and your life is completely different to this, and that's great. So I don't want you to feel like, you know, you kind of have to mimic what I'm doing. Like, I just want you to do this, you know, what beauty is to you. There is no right or wrong, because that's what makes us so amazing and interesting and unique. Right? Now, I've made up some questions to get you started and to spark your beauty memories around my original secondary ideas on your mind map. So if you've crossed out any of these, just ignore it, okay? And I've just given you these questions just to get you in a flow and in a rhythm with your brain, just to get your brain ticking over, okay? Now, as you begin brainstorming around each idea, I want you to dig deep for any memories of beauty you might have as a little girl. Now, I know some of you have had some sad childhoods, but there still would have been beauty, even if it was far less than what it should have been, all right? And if you're struggling to remember anything you found beautiful as a little girl, then try finding something from when you were a little bit older. So start with when you're around 5, and then go up. If nothing's coming to you, go up to when you're around 10, and then 15, and then go into your 20s, and so on until today. Okay, so you don't need to be rigid about this. If your mind goes in a completely different tangent, that is absolutely fine. Just roll with it. The whole point is that I'm just trying to stimulate that thought process for you. Okay, now I'm going to go through each one of these secondary ideas now, and I want you just to start mind mapping as we go. So I'm going to give you a few minutes with each secondary idea. You won't finish it on the call now, but I just want you to get started so that you can get the hang of it, so that once we get off the call and you're doing it in your own time, it's just easy for you to go back to, okay? Now, do you girls have any questions before we get started? Anybody got any questions? All good? All right, let's do it. Now, let's start with fashion. So I'm just going to ask you questions just to stimulate your imagination, all right? So what was your favorite dress as a little girl? And now just write things down. So as I'm speaking, I just want you to write things down that come to you. What was your favorite dress as a little girl? What about those gorgeous heels that your mum used to wear? Or the earrings your grandmother gave you? What about that top you wore on your first date? Or your prom dress? Or your formal dress? Or your wedding dress? What was beautiful about that? Or what did you imagine your wedding dress would be that you couldn't get, you know, because you didn't have enough money? We all have one of those. Or what's the one piece of clothing in your wardrobe now that you will never, ever be able to get rid of? You know, you may not have been surrounded by fashion when you were little, and if that's the case, that's fine too. Just try and find something, you know. Was there an auntie that you thought was really glamorous and she had this one dress that you just thought, oh, I'm going to wear that when I grow up? Or a cousin that had this dress with this beautiful little print that you love, you know, it had unicorns on it, or fairies, or something that you just loved. I'll just give you another minute on that one. All right, now let's go on to design. So what was the wallpaper you loved in your best friend's bedroom? Or the colour? Or the sheets that your mum gave you for Christmas that time? I remember mum bought me these sheets and it had this big, beautiful ballerina on them, and I thought they were the most gorgeous things on the planet. What was the wrapping paper that you chose to cover all your books in? All your school books? Do you remember doing that? I used to love that. What were your favourite soft toys? Or the posters that you used to hang up in your bedroom? Or the interiors that you used to love at your uncle's house? Or the carpets at your grandma's house? That's what I used to love. She had these incredible Persian rugs that I just used to think were so fabulous. Or is there packaging, you know, like beauty products, or I don't know, soaps, or like those sorts of gorgeous little, you know, packaging that you just thought gorgeous? Just write words, anything that comes to you that you remember as being beautiful. Start when you were younger and then work your way up to now. Even today, like what, you know, like I'm obsessed with perfume bottles. Like just think of things like that. Like what is it about them that you love? Is it the shape or the color? All right, we'll go on to the next one. So let's do art. So what did you love about art in school? Now, even if you're not an artsy type, you can still answer this. There would have been things about art that you loved, you know, about the visual of that. So were there colors, or was it textures, or a particular medium? What did you enjoy making? Or when you did craft? Was there anybody that used to take you to the art gallery that, you know, you loved particular areas of the art gallery? Were there any artists that you loved? Again, you may not be the artsy type, but often you know, you'll still find that there are particular artists that will just pop into your mind now, you know? I remember the first print I bought was by Clint. It was called The Kiss, and I just loved it. Is there anything like that for you? What mediums do you love? Is it painting or sculpture or drawing or charcoal? What colours come to your mind when you think of a beautiful piece of art? And what about art history? Most of us did a little bit of art history, at least in school. If you hated art history, you can ignore this bit. But was there any, you know, paintings from art history that you remember that are your definition of what beauty is? Or the paintings that hung at your local cafe? Usually they're really bad, but every now and then, you know, you just find something that's really stunning and inspiring. Or paintings that used to hang in your home that your parents used to buy. All right, so we'll go on to the next one. So let's do books. So what was your favorite story as a little girl? Was it romantic, or was it fantasy, or Western, or drama? Fairy tales? Where did your imagination take you? Where did your imagination take you? Who used to read to you when you were little? And what was that like? Do you have any visual memories of who read to you and how that felt and what that looked like? Which book had the most beautiful pictures? I remember being little and just being obsessed with the illustrations. I didn't even care what the story was. I loved the illustrations. I loved all the princess dresses in all the fairy tales. And if you remember those illustrations, the ones that you really loved, what color were they? What color palette? Were they dirty colors or really bright colors or, you know, pastel colors? And who was your favorite character? What world did you want to live in? I used to be obsessed with this book called Water Babies, and it was all about like under the sea. And so I like had this period where I was just obsessed with everything under the sea. Like, what sort of memories like that do you have? And which books did you collect as you started getting older? All right, so let's move on to travel. So where are the places you traveled as a little girl? Now, it doesn't have to be these, you know, incredible overseas trips. It can just be like an hour south or an hour north. Like, but what was that like for you? What was that adventure? What did that look like? What were the parts of that that really inspired you visually? And what about souvenirs? I remember my parents used to take me into these souvenir shops, and gosh, they were horrible, but I always managed to find something that I loved every time. So what was that thing for you? And postcards, what were the postcards that you used to choose to write to your grandparents? And where in the world do you still dream of going that you haven't been before? What cultures fascinate you or inspire you? What part of the world do you feel convicted to give? Whether that's through time or money or resources. What part of the world just has that, you know, that chunk of your heart? And what is it about that part of the world that you find visually beautiful? And it may not be anything, and that's okay. So just leave it and move on. But if there is, like, if there's any kind of cultural inspiration in your experience of, you know, of your life, like, write that down. So let's do nature now. What did you love about the nature you grew up in? Where you traveled? What did you love about the nature where you went on holidays or vacation? What do you love about the nature where you live now? Is it the water you love most, or is it the mountains or the meadows or the forest or the flowers, the gardens? What part of nature makes you feel most happy, most yourself, most free, most adventurous? What shapes and colours in nature do you love? What fruits? Raspberries, strawberries, mangoes, passion fruit? What animals? What animals did you think when you were a little girl were the cutest ever? What did you use to colour in? Which animal would you have chosen when you were little? Is it the bunny rabbits or the horses or the little chickens? And now let's go to music. What was the first record you ever got? Mine was Bad by Michael Jackson. Not that pretty, but I was obsessed with it. What about your cassette, the first cassette or CD? Now, some of these things might be more cool than beautiful, and that's okay. Like, that might even show, like, for me, that shows kind of my little edgy side, you know? So we're trying to capture all of those things. What was the most incredible concert you've ever been to? Mine was Pink, hands down. What instrument did you play as a child? What instrument did you wish you could have played as a child? What songs did you love to sing? Which artist swept you away? What music did you walk down the aisle to? What was that special piece of music that you chose? What did you walk out of the aisle to if you got married in a church? What genre do you love most? You know, what music do you play when you're incredibly happy? What music do you play when you're happy, but you're just feeling really tranquil and peaceful and relaxed? What's that? Let's go to movies now. What was the movie that you watched over and over again as a little girl? Mine was The Wizard of Oz. Would have watched it at least 100 times. What TV shows did you used to run home for? What are your top 10 movies today? What are your favorite movies? What is it about them that you loved? Visually, what did you love about those movies? Now, you might have lots of favorite movies where it wasn't necessarily the visuals of it that you love. So put those ones aside, and I'm wanting you to focus on the things that you loved because they were beautiful. What are the most beautiful movies to you? Who are your favorite actresses? This is a really good one for you to explore, Callie. Yeah? So who did you dress up as? Which actress did you wish you could be when you grew up? Or which character from a movie did you wish you could be when you grew up? And what movies just created this world that you just wanted to disappear into? That you kind of like, you know, when you just wish that was my world just for a moment. You know, what world was that? And what did that look like? And why was it so beautiful? What were those elements that you loved? What movies made you laugh so hard that your stomach hurt? What movies was so beautiful and so, you know, heart-wrenching that made you cry? All right, now I'll just give you one more minute and we'll finish up. I know you won't finish it, which is fine. So I'll just give you a little bit longer. All right. Now I know you wouldn't have been able to finish that today, all right? I want you to make sure that you fill that page with words. I cannot stress that enough because the more words you have on that page, the more we've got to work with in the coming weeks, all right? The more we have to pull inspiration from. So it's worth putting the time in, Alrighty. So I want you to finish that off by our next call next week. But before we go on, I want you to tell me in the chat what's been the most valuable thing you've discovered about beauty, just going through that process. Just pop that in the chat box. Just one sentence about what you've learned about what is beautiful to you that you didn't know before or you didn't remember. Sorry, girls who have iPhones, it's a bit trickier, isn't it? Contrast, bright colours, says Casey. Yay, that's lovely. Just a few more seconds. I love romantic colours, says Maria. Deep, rich, dirty colours. Yeah, beautiful, flowy things. Paige, the themes interact. Absolutely. I think most people don't realise that beauty is actually universal, you know? So what you find beautiful about one thing is also what you'll find beautiful about something else. So Callie says, I noticed that a lot of my memories are more involved around the feel and the smell rather than sight. Yeah, that's really true for a lot of people, Cal. That's very true for a lot of people. But I guess what I'm trying to do with this exercise is to force you into visual memory. Okay, so it's like really pushing you into that visual memory. Is there anything else? Paige, I can still see you typing. Vintage, retro. It's about context in history. Yeah, absolutely. All right, now let's go on. So we focused lots on the question, what do I find beautiful? So now we're going to focus on the question, what do I want to say? Which is basically your message. All right. Now, a very long time ago, a friend of mine explained personal style to me in a way that really stuck. So she said that we are all like presents. We walk around with our one-of-a-kind wrappings, either enticing others to know more about the gift inside of us or not. If the two presents here were in front of you right now, one was wrapped in beautiful paper with gorgeous silk ribbons and pretty fresh flowers, and the other one was wrapped in a plain brown paper and tape, which one would you want to most unwrap? Now, I get that it probably makes you feel uncomfortable, like it is a little bit uncomfortable to admit that, right? It's like there was this time where I took my middle boy to choose his first kitten. And honestly, all I cared about was getting the prettiest kitten that would match our interior and complement our cushions. And then a few months later, my sister-in-law goes and gets this ugly, unloved, one-eyed dog from the animal shelter, right? Seriously, she's so much lovelier than I am. But basically what I'm trying to say is that clothes are your wrapping, and your wrapping is your personal brand. Now, just as a side note, you don't need to be an entrepreneur to create a personal brand. Creating a personal brand is for anyone who leads and has an important message to share, which is all of you, okay? Now, it's true that either one of these presents could be filled with air or poop. There are many women who spend far too much time obsessing over their outer wrapping, but neglecting what's inside. And people are drawn to their beauty, their outer beauty. But when given the chance to go deeper, there's nothing going on. But that's not you. So you ladies are completely focused on your treasure, which is why you're here. So you've been focusing on polishing your inner jewels and then pouring them out all over your kids, all over your families, all over your clients and your tribe. But if we compare that to what you're pouring onto yourself, then it's really disproportionate, right? You're glistening like Aladdin's cave on the inside, but then there are far too many people, really fabulous people, that are missing out on the treasure inside of you because your clothes are telling a different story. So do you see the disconnect between those things? It's just like this misrepresentation of who you are, okay? Now, I love this quote by brand wizard Marty Neumeier from his book, The Brand Gap. And it says, if a brand looks like a duck but swims like a dog, then people will mistrust it. which is why we need to get really smart about this and why we should be taking strategic control over the way that we dress. Now, you've heard about all those sophisticated studies, the ones that say that it just takes 3 seconds for a person to form an opinion of us based on the way we look. So that's like the length of a sneeze or a cartwheel. So impressions matter. Now, a personal brand becomes a lot less important once you've built the relationship. So once a relationship is in place, people don't need to pay as much attention to what you're wearing or how you look because they've already made a decision to know you. They already like you and they already trust you. So instead of focusing on the outside of you, they become far more interested in what's going on at the very core of you. Does that make sense? So the reality is, though, that relationship takes time to build. And when there's no existing relationship, style is one of the most powerful tools you can use to help people make the lightning fast decision that you are absolutely worthy of their time and attention. And your job is to make that process as easy as possible for them. We are hardwired to judge others on the way that we look. And it sucks, but it's true because we're visual people. And until that relationship has been built, it's all we have to go on. All right? So from this point onwards, whether you're an entrepreneur or not, I want you to start thinking of yourself as a brand, which is so much more than just your website or your business card or, you know, wherever it is you work. Your brand is you. Now, again, Marty Neumeier defines a brand as being somebody's gut feeling about a person, product, service, or company. So in other words, branding is a person's emotional, intuitive response to the way you look and behave before they've had a chance to think about it or get to know you. Your brand isn't what you say it is. Your brand is what your audience says it is, or whoever the person is that you're coming in contact with. Now, we've already explored the question, what do I find beautiful? Which is, for me, the first most important step to finding your unique personal style. So the second most important step is to explore the question, what do I want to say? Now, your unique personal style will be a visual mashup of these two questions. It will be the sweet spot right in the middle. Now, there are women in the world who are completely clueless about the fact that there is a second question they need to be asking. So they're all about the first question, about feeling beautiful and making themselves happy and not giving a flying frog's foot about what anyone thinks of them. And I actually love that. Yeah, I seriously do. They're often the most creative women, right? But when you're a leader, or when you're an entrepreneur, it is crucial that you are communicating with your audience in a language that they understand and in a language that they can relate to, in a visual language that they can relate to. Otherwise, there'll be nothing about you that they find interesting or attractive or intriguing or worth pursuing. And that's the whole point of being able to, you know, develop a relationship and invite a relationship. So there'll be nothing that magnetizes them to you. Now, this is an example of our ladies that are all about the beauty for them. Okay. Have you seen that show called Love, Lust and Run with Stacey London? I don't think it's very popular in Australia, but my son and I watch it together and we love it. It's just hilarious. Anyway, here are some of the before pictures, which I think illustrate this point really well. So if you look at these ladies, they are posing for the cameras like they are the most glamorous creatures on God's earth, right? But to many, many others, that would be really scary, okay? So basically, they're not considering how this is coming across to other people and how people are viewing this, right? So for me, I would never consider hiring one of these girls as my business coach, no matter how incredible her results were, okay? Because she's not telling me that story. And look, okay, so this is between us, right? If the only thing I cared about was feeling beautiful, I'd be draped in head-to-toe haute couture 8 days of the week. Like, I am not joking. This is what I would wear, all right? And I would have my own ladies' maid, like the girls on Downton Abbey, and I'd be this blissful mess of silk and lace and feathers and flowers, and I'd have pink hair, without a doubt. I would have pink hair, all right? And if you saw me swanning down the street, you would literally laugh. Okay, and you would definitely not be taking this program. All right, so that's just an example. Although I find these things really beautiful, This isn't communicating who I am, okay? Now, the ever divine Dr. Carol Walsh says what I'm trying to say pretty perfectly in this little quote from her book. And she says, take the time, the energy, and the investment to make sure that you are surrounding yourself with pieces that reflect who you are, what you want, and where you are going in your life and business. Your clothes speak, and you want to make sure that their words are embracing you with love, inspiring you into action, and supporting your success. I love that quote. You know, your answer to the question, what do I find beautiful, is so important. But the way your audience perceives that answer is equally important. Now, I'm not saying that you can completely control the way a person or your audience perceives you. I'd be a doofus if I told you that. But what I am saying is that you can be carefully and strategically crafting the message you're sending them, and then be open to receiving their feedback when a little bit of tweaking is needed. So you're using your clothes to communicate, and communication goes two ways. So you need to figure out what it is you want to say so that you can strategically move yourself towards the vision, goals, and dreams you have for your business or your work or your life. So let's get started on our next mind map. Now, Ramit Sethi uses this saying that something is either in the clouds or in the street, right? So when he says it's in the clouds, he's talking about a person or something that is way too fluffy or too fairy tale or too high level. He tells them to bring their idea down from the clouds to the street, which forces them to get right up close, like right into the nitty gritty, dirt on the knees stuff, so that you can become more strategic and more detail orientated and more goal orientated. And that's exactly what we're going to do now. As you create your second mind map around the question, what do I want to say? So the clouds or the fluff and rainbows bit is your beauty, okay? And then the street is the dirt and the grit, and that's your message. Like, that's the reality stuff, okay? So let me ask you again, what do you want to say? What does the most real, widely successful, self-loving storybook business and life look like for you, or career? Now, these are the secondary ideas I'm going to get you to explore. I want you to define who you are. I want you to write words that describe your goals and your dreams, your ideal client. And if it's not clients, it's just more about who are the people that you're wanting to invite into your life. Who are the people that are going to help propel you, into the life that you really want for yourself. And then we're going to brainstorm around the things that make you unique, and then the style and feel of your brand. Now, again, we've all got a personal brand. You don't have to have a business to have a personal brand, all right? So I want you all to think about yourself as having a personal brand now, because we all have a message and we all have a story to tell, okay? So when I say brand, please don't feel that I'm excluding you if you're not an entrepreneur, all righty? So we've all got our personal brand. Now, again, I just wanted to show you my mind map for this exercise. Now, this one's a little bit trickier, okay? I definitely find this one more difficult than the first mind map, because a lot of it's, it's very intangible, a lot of this stuff. But it is such an incredibly eye-opening exercise to do. So again, just take your time, take whatever time that you need to take to get all the words on the page, okay? Yeah, so let's get started, alrighty? Now, again, there's a page in your workbook which helps you explore each one of these secondary ideas with more questions to get your mind going, which I'm going to go through with you now. So again, I want you to start mind mapping as we go. You won't finish it, and that's okay, alrighty? But I just want to get the ball rolling so that when you pick it up again next time, it's just going to be easy for you to keep. It's just like this big flow-on effect, so it'll be much easier for you. Okay, now there is another page too, which is just a little extra help. I don't know if you'll need this today, but you might want to look to this when you complete this mind map. later. It's basically a collection of words that I've put together to help spark any ideas that will capture the message and the heartbeat of who you are and your brand. So you can use these as a starting point, but don't let them limit you. There are loads of words here that cover lots of different brand types. But make sure you go beyond these, which is what I want to do with you now, and just keep exploring. Okay, so these are just to give you more ideas to help keep you going so you don't get stuck. All right, so let's get started. Have we got our pretty pencils, our pretty colors? Beautiful. All righty, so let's define who you are. It's a big question. I'm sorry, it's hard, but let's do it. Okay. So what is your mission? Again, I just want you girls to pick one word. Try not to mix your words, just one word. What's your mission? Just try and capture as many single words as you can about who you are. What are your core values? What are you passionate about? What are the hobbies? What are the things that you do for fun that make you you? What are the things you're really interested in or inspired by? What are some adjectives that describe your personality? Or how would other people describe your personality? How would people describe your character? What is the experience you want people to have of you? How do you want people to feel when they're with you? What impression do you want to be able to leave? What is your why? I'll just give you another minute. All right. Now let's go on to your goals and dreams. So where do you want to go? What are your goals for this year, next year, 5 years, 10 years? What are the big things you want to be known for? What kind of impact do you want to have on the world, on your world? How do you want to be remembered? How do you want your children to remember you? What does the most beautiful life look like to you? All right, now let's talk about your ideal client. So client may not be the right word for you. If it's not, just replace that with something else. You know, your ideal relationship or the people you want to invite into your world. Who do you want to attract into your life? What are some adjectives to describe your ideal client or your dream client? What are their hopes? What are their dreams for their life? And then how do you love them? How do you add value to them? And how do you help them become what they dream of being? How do you support them? All right, let's go on to your uniqueness. What are the big things you want to communicate to your ideal client? Again, just replace the word client with whatever is relevant to you. So what are the big things you want to communicate to your director or to your audience or whatever it is? Or your future best friend, okay? What sets you apart? What makes you special? What is unique about you? What makes you stand out in a sea of sameness? What are your strengths and your skills? What do you do that your competitors do not? That question may not be relevant to you all, and that's okay. I'm just giving you questions that just stimulate your thinking. What makes you a dang delight to work with or to be with? What is it about you that makes people happy or makes people feel loved or safe or encouraged? What is it about you? All right. Let's go on to your style. So when I say style, I'm not necessarily talking about what you're wearing. I'm just talking about the feel, okay? So what do you want your brand to feel like? What do you want your brand to look like? What kind of mood do you want your brand to have? What are the characteristics and personality of your brand? Write down just a couple of other brands that inspire you. Who has a brand that you just think, oh, I love that. I love the way that they feel and the way that they look. What are the things your brand must be above everything else? I'll just give you another 30 seconds on that. Now, you won't have finished it, and that's okay. I just want you girls to make some time for yourselves this week just to finish that off for our next call, okay? And make sure that you keep these 2 mind maps safe, alrighty? Because we're going to be using those throughout the rest of the program. We're going to be referring back to them quite a bit because they're our foundation, alrighty? Now, can I get you girls to do me a favor and hold up your beauty mind map for me so that I can see it, because I want to have a look. Oh, Paige, awesome, honey. Beautiful. Heather. Oh, good girls. Oh, do you know how happy these make me? I love them. Good job. Now hold up your next one. Hold up your messaging one. Oh, Paige, look at all your colors. Oh, that was amazing. Good on you, girls. Good on you. All right. Now, I want you to tell me in the chat box what's been the most valuable thing you've discovered about your message in doing that exercise, even though we haven't finished it. What's something that kind of surprised you or that you didn't realize? That I can create a message and pursue it with clothes. Yeah. The I am the message, my character. Yes, Kelly. Paige, I have a vision and I'm feeling it. I love that. I love that. My style is like sushi, Casey. That is so adorable. I don't understand. Tell me more about that. I want to understand that. Heather, clearer than I thought. I can see where I'm going. How good is that? Maria, funny. Yeah. Oh, that's great, girls. Alrighty, so let's chat homework. So number 1, can you girls just give me a thumbs up if you all have a Pinterest account? Who has a Pinterest account? Thumbs up. Paige, no. Heather, yes. Casey, yes. Callie, do you have a Pinterest account? I can't see you. Yes. Maria, do you have a Pinterest account? Okay. So Paige, your homework is to get yourself a Pinterest account for next week. Okay. It's super easy. It will literally take you 2 minutes. Alrighty. Now, number 2, I need you to finish your what do I find beautiful mind map. Okay. Just take your time. All right. Just give that gift to yourself. Dig deep. Just keep digging. Just keeps going, okay, what's more? Like, what's more? And Kelly, like, I know for some of you, this is harder than others. All right. But this is the foundational stuff. So I know it hurts your brain and all of you probably have sore brains right now. So give yourself a break and then just come back to it. All right. Even if it's over a couple of nights, just give yourself 15 minutes and then sleep on it, and give yourself another 15 minutes. I want lots and lots of words. Fill the page. The more effort you put into this mind map now, the more inspiration we're going to be able to pull from, okay, throughout the rest of the program. And then number 3, you need to finish your what do I want to say mind map. Again, dig deep, lots and lots of words, fill up the page. Alrighty. So that is it for today. I want you girls just to answer in the chat box one more question. What was your main takeaway from today of combining all of those things together? What was the biggest thing that you learned or you noticed? What can you share? What was your biggest takeaway? Pop it in the chat. Strengths, says Paige. Yeah. I'm happy to be creating a brand that speaks to you. Yeah, definitely. Beautiful. Anyone else? That I do have a style and I'm uncovering it. Absolutely. Like everybody has a style. Okay. It's just a matter of figuring out what it is. Okay. Because everybody has things that they're attracted to and that are beautiful to them. And that's what your style is. So this is just the very beginning of that. First impressions matter. And I need to consider what I'm saying to people who don't know me yet. Yep. Because that's your first way that you communicate. Alrighty. It's the first thing people see about you before they know who you are. The beginning of a link between who I am, I want, and what people to see in a brand. I think I read that wrong, but I know what you mean, Heather. I think I'm starting to mess my words up now. Oh, that's great, girls. Now, do you have any questions? Hit me with your questions. Firstly, let's start maybe on today's content. If there's anything about today that you've got questions about or what you need to get done for next week, anything you're not sure about? If you do have a question, just put your hand up and we'll unmute and we'll have a chit chat. So don't worry about the type. Any questions? Hands up. Thumbs up, all good? Yay! Well, I am so happy that you girls could come live, and thank you also to everybody who's listening to the recording, and I'm sorry we couldn't get you here. I did try my best to do the best times, but obviously we can't make it work for everybody. So thank you. We will see you next week. I'm super excited to continue this process for you girls. Yeah, so let's do it. Hey, enjoy your weeks, dig deep. And we'll get to Pinterest next week and we'll start translating all these words into images. All right? It's the fun bit, the really fun bit. Alrighty, my girls. Bye. We'll see you soon.